Where I come from, you can't eat antlers, so let's go.
Smoked them. The perfect knife for cutting your underwear.
Oh, you might have to take a beer run while we're out hunting.
Did y'all see that? I hope y'all saw that, because that's what they look like.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever worn this hat here. Actually, when I pulled it out of the box, yeah, you see it. You see it.
It's got the Chase Elliott tassel on the front.
Come on. When I pulled it out of the box, Steph was flabbergasted by it. She was like, "What's that?" I said, "It's my new hat."
Lifestyle.
She goes, "Why is there a rope on it?" I said, "I don't know. It's in style, I guess. I don't know. You read stuff, see stuff."
Yeah, this is khaki cord outdoors.
Khaki cord outdoors. Yeah. Hey, Nate, you funny. You make me happy.
When the skies are gray.
Hey,
how's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. I'm sorry that we couldn't link up last night. The Grammys were on, and you know how this household gets with the Grammys. You've been there.
Yeah,
You've
did
seen
you
it
guys
firsthand.
did y'all place bets?
No. It was more or less the whole house was rooting for Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that would have been
And
pointless.
then she won her 13th Grammy last night. And it was for not Song of the Year. For something, I don't know, but it was she wins it, right? And she gets up on stage and everyone's like, "Shh, be quiet, be quiet." Which I get it. Be quiet. Let's hear what the woman has to say, because they've been building up for this re-release of the Reputation album, right? Everyone's freaking out. She's wearing Reputation colors. She gets up there and she's like, "I just want to thank the fans. And I've been holding a secret for 2 years." You just see it. The girls, hell, even Cooper was like, "What?" She goes, "My brand new album will release on April 19th. And it's going to be called, shit, I can't remember what it's going to be called. Something poet department."
Travesty.
No, not travesty, but it's some sort of poet department. It starts with a T. Anyways, whole brand new album. Steph looks at me, crying
In tears.
in
Yep.
tears. And Peyton's losing her mind. Peyton goes on her phone immediately, right? And she gets the album artwork, or like the announcement, screenshots it, and then posts it on TikTok. Like it's like a small, like 10-second video. And she come downstairs that she had like 102 likes in like 3 minutes. And people were commenting, crying, and other people were like, "How did you do this so fast?" I was like, "Yeah, it was a thing." And then Taylor won album of the year. I guess it's like the big award in the Grammys. It's kind of like in the Oscars where they do picture of the year. And she won that one. And so she done did it again. But yeah, it was a busy night watching the Grams. Plus, I watched the Pro Bowl all day yesterday. Which, have you watched that yet? The flag football version of the Pro Bowl?
I tried last year, but it's a joke.
You know what? I had a lot of fun this year watching it. I don't know if it was because I just didn't watch it before, but like Thursday they did the Pro Bowl games, as they call them, and they do different events. And every time NFC or AFC win an event, you get 3 points added to your score. So like the NFC went into that game winning like 12-3 or something, or 12-6, something like that. And the AFC was beating their ass and all that stuff. And I think Eli was coaching the NFC, and Baker Mayfield got bumped up to the Pro Bowl this week. And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to start Jalen Hurts and Geno Smith. And then fourth quarter, I want Baker Mayfield to come in and close it out." And once you know it, Baker Mayfield comes in like right at the end of the third, wins that bitch. And then he gets offensive MVP. Come on.
After winning the passing competition.
After winning, yep, he won the passing competition against CJ, Jalen Hurts, Tua, bro, name him, dude. He beat him.
So does he
Gardner
get
Minshew.
does he get the Pro Bowl accolade or whatever you call it?
Like that says he's a Pro Bowler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. MVP, Pro Bowler for comeback player of the year. Like,
Well, I'm
bro,
telling you, dude, this dude is not helping us out at all. This guy is going to get north of $35 million for whoever he plays for next year. I'm sure it's going to be the Bucks because apparently the Bucks went and hired a new offensive coordinator that's worked with Baker before, and they've only interviewed like 3, and all 3 of them worked with Baker. And apparently the whole thing was he was telling them who to bring in offensive wise to match what he already knows. And they done did it. They got that OC out of Kentucky and something Coon. I don't know what it is, but Baker's gonna be a buck,
yeah,
dude. He's gonna be a buck for the next 3-4 years. That's
we
cool.
need him. We need Winfield. And we need Evans.
Winfield won't go nowhere. They'll just franchise tag him and be done with it.
Right.
He ain't going nowhere. Evans is I don't know, man. I think bringing Baker back, there's probably some. I'll come back if you bring Mike back. Take care of Mike first. You never know. Mike's not slowing down. I mean, if there was anyone that's slowing down, it would be Godwin over him. But Mike Evans isn't slowing down whatsoever. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens there, man. And then look, baseball. Baseball's right around the corner, bro.
Yes, it is.
About to have things
It
to
is.
watch while you're cooking dinner every night. Every night.
Yeah, I know I'm about to have to start paying $20 a month again for my Bally's subscription so I can watch the playoff run for the Lightning and start watching every Rays game again.
Well, hey, don't break the bank, okay? Don't break the bank. $20. You know, it could hurt your checking account.
It can.
It could.
It can do that.
Buddy, you look sharp in that new hat. Oh, shit, we're over here just talking hats. Great hat.
Yeah.
Looks good
It
on
is. Carl texted me. So we went to Alabama not this past week, but the week before.
you. Mm-hmm.
Carl had texted me like 3 days before we were about to leave. He's like, "Hey man, about to do hats. They're gonna be $18 each. What are we doing?" Because the people that have done our hats for the last 3 years, his property butts up to there, so he can literally just jump the fence and go over there. And he's like, I'm running over there right now. And he's taking pictures of hats. He's sending us different styles, different colors, blah 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 blah. I was like, let's go camo front, orange back with the orange logo in the front. Perfect. So we got 4 of them for us 4 on the trip. They came in, dude. They're sharp as hell, and I'm gonna be honest with you. We couldn't ask for better luck. I'm kind of superstitious when it comes to certain things, and I was kind of weary on wearing this hat, but it all worked out, and we had a pretty good trip to Alabama.
Good. And I do intend on talking about Alabama because I feel like there's a lot to talk about in Alabama. But I'm gonna try and go in chronological order
Mm-hmm.
because the last time you came on, you were coming topside down here to hunt some rut in Zone B.
Yep. Correct.
So I figured we'd dive into that. That's an easy one to dive into. There I was. Morning. Actually, we hunted the evening. We hunted the evening.
Yeah,
that's
if
what we did first.
If we're gonna do chronological,
Chronological
order, we
order.
gotta talk about.
Yeah, I forgot
We
that
got-
evening shit happened.
Yeah, we gotta talk about the about hour and a half to 2 hours worth of work we had to put in to make shit happen in the first place.
Yeah. Show up there. Got a stand designated for Bo, but we were gonna move it. There's a lock-on stand, and we move it. So we got a lock-on stand on the property. Nate brought down another lock-on. All right, because we were gonna have 4 of us hunting, 2 shooters, and 2 filmers. What the hell's that? Did you just see that?
Hey, dude, where's the balloon?
Hey, listen, I just want to thank everybody that came out today. What is that? I did the peace signs, bro, and Uh, There's
Confetti
balloons.
raining, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do next? I'm going to Disney World. If you're listening, you can't see this. I'm hitting up the double deuces right now. Okay. And there it is again. And confetti and balloons are pouring over my head. The hell, Zoom? Pay $18 a month for some podcasts and stuff, not for this shit.
Wow.
Wow, that was
dude.
good. Hey, let me finish the story, Zoom. Jesus. Um, anyways, so we got 2 shooters, 2 filmers, right? So we move one stand over to where I shot it's the
Oh God, dude.
can't make it up. Where I shot a bug last year. And then we were gonna head a little bit north to kind of give ourselves a little separation with your other stand. So all in all, I mean, trekking as far as we did with these stands, it was a son of a gun, but we did it. And we hung the stands up. Now we immediately just sit in our stand because Maurice and Johnny Allen weren't going to show up until the next morning. So we get up in that stand and start sitting, and we realize like the way we have it set up is our back face this way. Never had a deer come from there on camera, so we were like just focus. You know, once we got up there, it was so nice looking oaks and palmettos. It was perfect, right? Beautiful wind, and I don't know what it was, 25, 30 minutes. Heard a grunt, turn around, and there's a shit eating 3-point standing right behind us. And he was catching our wind, but not freaking out, like he's stomping a little bit, but he tried to move, but he was like trying to move to our right. He would stop, turn back around, and then he disappeared. Like he was trying to get past us. And then we started getting damn cold. And Nate, you were like, dude, we better put these hoodies on before it's too late. So yeah, you're right. As we're coming into like the witching hour, you know, where wins become losses and losses become wins, you know. And as we're putting a hoodie on, Nate's got his on. I think I'm like head in, arms in, trying to peel my head in like a turtle. And Steve, don't move. There's a damn deer right there. And I'm like, you got to be shitting. I'm the one with the gun. And I'm like, so I like slowly peel my little head out, you know, and a buck shows up right to our left, 3-point. Again, this little guy, like he's like trying to get in our area, but he's being real weary, like he's catching us our wind somehow. He's not looking at us really, but he's just catching our wind somehow, some way, and he peels back. And this is this part where the putting the hoodie on and the rest I'm about to talk about is all within like 3 minutes of each other. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it started happening pretty fast.
Yeah. And so this was at like I don't even know, 4, maybe 4, 3:45, 4, something
Yeah.
like that. And the buck kind of turns right around and goes off in these palmettos. And I'm trying to get his eyes like to see where he's at, you know. And I'm looking forward and I hear a crash and I see a flag, right? Going from left to right. I said, damn, there's a deer running right there. And they didn't see it at first, but then it slowed down and it was a doe. And it started clicking like, all right, that's why this buck trying to get in here so much, because he knows old doe's got her stanky stank going 40 yards in front of us. And he's just trying to get around this weird area that he can smell us in. And then he comes in grunting like a son of a gun, bleh, 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 chasing her around. Then it kind of dissipates, and that was it, I believe, for the rest of the evening. And we're like, shit, bro, we got to make sure we sit here in the morning because there's a girl in here who's hot. She's on fire. She got a heat bomb going off, and it's ticking. So we had to come back in the morning and left Maurice and Johnny Boy at the front stand there, and they saw that 3-point within the hour, if not less than that, 40 minutes or something. And we didn't see a damn thing, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't see anything for a long time, like 11:30. And it's to like 11:30 and start seeing these does. There's what did you say, Nate? 3 or was there 4?
There was 4. There was 3 big
I
ones.
remember there being a big nanny and the stinky one. I can't remember if there was 2 more or just 1 more. But regardless, there's 3 or 4 does to our right.
They were really hard to recollect.
Yeah. And as soon as they started moving, And it's about 11:45. I hear a grunt, real deep bastard grunt. Bleh. I could probably call a deer in with my mouth after doing that twice in the last minute. Bit. So I see it, and I bring up my rifle, and I'm looking, and I see horns. Good side of horns. I'm like, buck, 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 buck. And he said, where at? I said, straight ahead of me, 11 o'clock. Wouldn't you know it? Buck comes out. He's got legit a half a rack missing.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, by law, this dude's a 4-point. Drive me nuts. He's got one
He
rack
looks.
that's big as shit on his left side. On his right side, it comes up about 3 inches, and genetics or whatever the hell has messed him up. It's KO'd. It gets no bigger than that. I was like, I'll be damned if I'm dragging that guy all the way out of here. Not him. That's the one we called Elliot.
Yep.
And I've been seeing him since Velvet, never seen him in a stand. But now I know. Elliot's hot on the stinky stink. His shit eating 3-points hot on that stinky stink. It's stinking over here. And we sit, nothing till about 5 o'clock. The does that were originally there kind of wandered off, but we never saw them move again. So we figured they bedded up, which is what they did. Because once they get about 5 o'clock, they stood back up, came back over. And it wasn't 60 seconds that they stood back up. Another grunt. Beep, 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 beep. Whammy. 3-point. Chasing these all over the place. All over the damn place. I can't stop. Those are coming under us, running around us. But now it gets dark. And I think, shit, I don't know. I can't remember what shooting light was. 6:10, maybe 6, something like that. 6 o'clock, one of the two. I don't know. Can't remember it. But I know we couldn't get out of the stand because these does, 4 of them, and this little buck are all within pissing distance from our stand. Like they won't leave. One of them is just staring at us and stomping, taking 2 steps, and she wouldn't take her eyes off of us. And they just would not leave. So I don't think we even got down from the stand until almost 6:40. And the only reason we got those does to go away is me and him both simultaneously started pissing on a palmetto because it was the only thing that we could do to make noise other than that. Yell at them. But I think we even said hey, and nothing happened. So we just pissed on some bushes and they got out of Dodge. And then the next morning came and that was a hard wake up. Super hard wake up. Couldn't do it. And we went out there and grabbed our shit and came back home. Didn't even hunt. But it was an eventful little weekend. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't good. It was a good weekend. But if it's not the buck I'm looking for, it's not the. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to drag it. But if this was public land, they all would have died. But that wasn't the case. But I will say this. I did feel a new kind of hurt in my heart that Saturday, about 3 o'clock.
I was gonna say you kind of jumped around a big piece of the story here.
Oh yeah, I was just saving the veggies for the end. You know,
And I feel really bad for one of our hunting buddies.
So, like I had said, we had Maurice and Johnny Allen sitting on this lock on to the south. Now, my neighbors started hunting there. I brought this up. I might have. I don't know. They've started hunting the property next to us. Let it be that it's 3 acres and they have 3 acres. That's how close we are. And they're like, hey, my dad and his buddy Bruce, they're going to come hunt today. But I didn't even, I think I might have saw the text, but I was busy doing something, so I didn't even, it didn't even click. So anyways, 3 o'clock comes by and I hear a boom. I look at Nate and I said, holy shit, Maurice got one. Holy smokes. And Nate said, I don't know, man. It didn't sound like a rifle. It sounded like a shotgun. I was like, damn, it kind of did sound like a shotgun. Didn't have that percussion. And of course, Maurice texted us immediately. Wasn't me, but it felt like it was about 100 yards away. Well, it felt like that, Maurice, because 100 yards away, Bruce shot one of our target bucks at 40 yards with a 12 gauge shotgun and dropped it right where it stood. Now, that might not sound bad, right? You know, neighbor shoots one, everyone's after the same deer. The deer was following does. Now, this buck was one on our hit list, super wide deer. Me and Nate thought about it. He was probably 28 or 28, Jesus, sorry, 20 inches wide, 6 point, big wide bastard. And he was going from west to east, following a group of does. If no one was hunting in that stand, that group of does was going to walk right in front of Maurice and Johnny Allen and that buck would have been taken by them. But he's like, I don't know if he shot a buck or not. I didn't hear any running. And then sure enough, they're like, yeah, he said he dropped where it stood. I'm like, well, that's why you didn't hear no running, son. That shotgun did what it's supposed to do. And I think that was the first time I've ever hurt while hunting, like thinking like, man, is this what people feel like when like in the Midwest, when like their neighbor kills their target buck that they've been hunting all year? You know, I'm like, man, that sucks. At the same time, I was happy. I was like, you know, that's cool. They sent us pictures of it. Sure enough, the buck was 18 inches wide and worthy of being taken down. So then it was that guy's biggest buck he'd ever shot. So congrats to him. Sucks to suck to Maurice. Hey, what do they say in Happy Gilmore? I guess better luck next year. So yeah, but that was that weekend. That was fun.
Same thing I said in Waterboy. Live it by another day.
We live up by another day. We live up by another day. Bischiotto. That's how I felt when I heard the shot. Bischiotto. Son of a gun. But yeah, that was it. And that was it for that weekend. And I've gone back once since then. I sat for 6 hours and I didn't see a damn thing with a heartbeat. Not a thing.
It's real dead over there right now. You can
Yeah,
definitely tell there's pressure next door.
You know, I talked to them Saturday, and he said that he checked his cameras for the first time in 2 weeks because he has to go in there and pull the cards. And he said he had 0 deer. He said what he does have is multiple pictures of multiple days of a pack of coyotes. And I'm thinking, because I tallied it up in the stand. The wife was telling me I was hunting too much, so I was like, well, let me get my evidence before I retort back. So I started looking at all my hunts this year, and it came down to I've hunted 7 times this year, and 3 of those have been at your place. 4 of those have been here. And that includes 1 is just a weekend or 1's just a day. So I was like, all right, I know I'm not pressuring these deer. I know these guys aren't necessarily pressuring the deer because they hunt like when they can. You know, they don't like go out there and hunt for 3 straight days. It'll be like 1 day here and then like 7 days later hunt there, maybe 3 days after that hunt there. Not exactly pure pressure. But what I've noticed is for the first time ever out there is coyotes. They said they had a pack of coyotes howling. The owner of the property next to me said on her Ring doorbell for 3 straight days, the Ring doorbell was picking up coyotes howling at like 7 in the morning. This guy's getting pictures of coyotes. I've seen a coyote in a stand, couldn't get a shot on it with my bow. I see him all the time on camera. So I don't know if like there's a den right there and these deer have kind of figured it out because remember we had a fawn on that property. One day I had pictures of a fawn with those 4 does. Never seen it again. So I know it got eaten by a coyote, more than likely. I mean, there's nothing that would have killed it. So I think it's more or less become like there's a comfortability there with some coyotes that are easing those deer away from our little corner that we hunt. And that's just my thought.
Very well could be. I think it started with the pigs, then the coyotes. maybe has something to do with them hunting next door as well. I
No, it
mean,
doesn't help. It doesn't help. You know what I mean? That they're there, but I mean, we would still get pictures of deer all the time. But
oh yeah,
that camera, that camera to the south, I just got my first deer on it 2 days ago. It was three does walking by. I haven't had a deer on it in a month
yeah.
because there's a reason they're not coming down that way no more. So I know in the off season, after turkey over the summer and stuff, uh, I'm gonna have to in place some sort of. I got to make sure that these deer know that this is their food source. This is where they go, and whether that's hog panels, whatever, fencing, that I have a good enough space to just put a feeder right in the middle, and they can jump over it, and the pigs will just give up. You know, they'll just walk by it. They won't even try it no more. That's what I'll have to do. I got to get them remembering that their food source is this place, and that's what's going to have to be the next step at that property there. That's what's going to have to be.
And I I do believe that would be the best option is probably some sort of hog panels, or 3 foot fencing or something to keep the hogs out.
Yeah.
Like Texas style, deers can just hop the fence and get in there.
Yeah. And I can go out there and eradicate some pigs, but you can never be you're never going to stop it. It's like trying to believe that you can stop the cartel from smuggling drugs. You know, it's not going to happen. But what I can do is I can take care of these coyotes now. That ain't hard. That ain't nothing but a Bluetooth speaker and your predator call on your phone. Those little bastards come running to your little speaker, put it under a little palmetto so they can't see it, and then pop them. Or shoot a hog, hang a tying quarter in the tree, and just
I was
sit
gonna
on
say,
that bitch.
shoot, gut him right on the creek bank right there. And
Yeah, bro. I mean, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
if
So,
you put one of them cameras on a gut pile and see how long it takes for a coyote to get there.
oh yeah, it ain't gonna take long, son. It ain't gonna take long. That night, 2 hours tops.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. So we had that. That was a good evening. I really appreciated the help that weekend, and that was fun. That was a fun time. I guess we can go on to the following weekend, which is your trip up to Alabama, Nate.
Yeah, so the that trip concluded, we kind of watched the Bucks game. They beat who was it? The Eagles at home.
Come on, beat that
And
shit out of them, bro.
yeah. So we had a good night that night, and then I ended up coming back up and going to work next day, and I only had like 4 nights of work. I had to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and when I got off Friday morning, me and Blake was headed to Alabama. So that's what we did. Got everything loaded up Thursday afternoon, went to work, got off work, met, picked him up, and we headed up to Alabama. Um, we get up there, and we were actually hitting a cold front. It was actually like an Arctic blast. Like you
Cold
have
as
you have
shit.
you have yeah, you have cold fronts, and then you have an Arctic blast. So what I mean by that is a cold front's like 28, 34 degrees. No, this shit was like 16 to 20 degrees.
No,
And
I was
the
with the army that weekend at Camp Planning in North Florida, and we had to sleep outside in like our little 1 man hooches. And I've never been that cold. I think Sunday was like 26 degrees. I was sleeping outside, something crazy. So yes, it was very cold that weekend.
very not that and honestly, I have mm, the means and the gear to stay warm in
Of
them
course.
types of in that type of weather. But the only issue that I found was that when it's 16 degrees out and the wind is blowing 15 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
So the first morning, Saturday morning when we got up, the feel like was 9 degrees. And we were like, do we want to do this?
No.
So we did it. Uh, the I, so I'm constantly learning this place. Okay, you feel like you're in a good area just because it's pretty. Oh, Zens.
Come
You're
on.
such a Zenner, bro.
Yeah, I put him in top decky.
Son of a Zenner.
Top shelf where grandma keeps her cookies, bro.
Come on.
Come on. Go ahead.
Um,
9 degrees.
yeah, 9 degrees. You get so lost in like a pretty area, so you're so used to hunting Florida where it's just flat, sand hill pines, palmettos, oak flat, and you get up there and you're walk off the backside of this food plot, and you're on a fire lane. You're walking down a fire lane, and all of a sudden you look to your left, and it just drops down into a pretty ass creek bottom where you can see all the way down, and all the way up the other side. You're like, damn, this is pretty. I can just see a deer cruising through here. So you're like, I'm gonna sit right here. You see a couple deer tracks. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Ultimately, all you're doing in the long run is just wasting your time. So, uh, so for the first 2 full days, I would say I pretty much wasted time just by hunting spots that looked pretty as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Picturing deer walking through there, not really hunting sign where deer have proven that they are using this area right now.
Yeah.
So after the first couple of days, Carl was in a good spot where I'd went up there in the beginning of December and put a camera, was putting cameras up or whatever. None of my cameras did well at all. Like I had coyotes and hogs, and I had like a couple does, and I had more people on all my cameras than I did deer. But Carl, on the other hand, his camera actually died from taking so many deer pictures in 3 weeks, and he was getting daytime pictures of nice bucks. So we knew that he was in the area, and we kind of was surrounding that area. We had 4 people within 600 yards, all the way around him, thinking, they're obviously centered right there where he's at. We're gonna try to figure out where they're going and why. So, long story short, there we wasted time for 2 days. So Blake and I decided, hey, we kind of see what Carl's area is like. Oh, so it's nothing really pretty. It's just open pines next to a thick ass creek bottom, and weren't necessarily focused on the landscape, but we were focused on the type of deer sign that he was hunting. So what he's hunting is there was a beat down trail following the edge of that creek, and it would Y and go up the hill into the pines where it gets super thick. So we're like, okay, they're bedding out there. But in that little area there's probably 15 scrapes. So I'm like, okay, we need to go find some fresh scrapes because it rained Friday morning. So everything that we had seen had been rained in. So we're like, okay, if we start finding some fresher scrapes, obviously the deer are there within the last 24 to 48 hours. So we need to be where the scrapes are. So we walked probably 3 or 4 miles scouting different areas I've been before. Haven't found a fresh scrape yet. So we go to the spot where I'd killed that big 6 last year on the first morning where we seen him chasing does.
Yeah.
And the next day after this was the same exact day. It would have been the 21st. So I was like, well, I know on the 21st last year there was a hot doe in this block. So let's go over here and check it out. So we walk probably a mile through them woods, and I'm caught already. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit right here because it's pretty. And I went back to the pretty thing. And I was like, Blake, let's go over here and check this out. So there's a fire lane. We walked down that fire lane, and we found one fresh scrape. And I was like, boom, there it is. Let's do it. Put a camera on it, told Blake he's not here. We hunted there twice, didn't see a deer. So now it's like, okay, the fresh scrape ain't working either. We pulled our shit out of there. We went to a total new area I've never been before. So if you look on the map, it kind of hugs the north end boundary of the land. It's probably 4 lines, anywhere from 8 to 12 foot tall, and they're thick briars, and you got to push your way through them briars, and then there's the property line is the end of the pines, and then the the private land is all like hardwoods, but there was a section of them hardwoods where it kind of horseshoed out into where we were hunting. So there was probably like a 40-acre section of oaks that kind of horseshoed out from the property line into the land that we were allowed to hunt. So we went and checked that out, and the whole boundary, that whole, because there's a fire line that follows the edge of them hardwoods around. There it was ate up, dude. I mean, it looked like it was just tracks on top of tracks. Every overhanging limb had a fresh scrape on it. It was just like, okay, so now we are finding sign that is just unbelievable. And
Come
it went
on.
from finding one scrape in 4 miles to walking in here and it's just assuming, and boom, it was like, okay. So we separated. There was another horseshoe about 400 yards up the property line that did the same thing.
Yeah.
So he hunted one and I hunted one.
Perfect.
So we put 3 cameras on this fire lane between both horseshoes, and it's just ate up, dude. I've been hunting there for 4 years and I've never seen this much buck sign in this small area.
Love it.
In this small of an area, let's just say.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I was just convinced. I was like, I've killed 3 bucks up here already. Not hunting sign this good. This is where we need to be. So we hunt 2 days on this area, and neither one of us see a deer. Never get a picture of a deer, and I'm just mind blown. Right. So we're coming down to our last day and a half. So, or no, like, yeah. So I'm to the point now where, well, let me take a step back. So I'm sitting in the stand and I have some confidence. It's more or less like a bow stand. It's super thick all the way around you. You have like 2 shooting lanes at like 30 yards, and it's literally on a fire lane. And where I was sitting, so the helicopters, there's a landing pad about 1,000 yards to my west. Well, if you look on the map, the way their landing pads are shaped, there's like 5, I guess they would be airstrips. And the way they're shaped, they're like, I'm directly in line with them. And their flight patterns were coming down right over me and landed on them pads. So I literally, after like 8 o'clock in the morning until 30 minutes before dark, I was having helicopters like flying so low above the trees because they were landing that my tree was swaying like every 90 seconds. So I was annoyed as fuck. So I was like, I don't give a shit even if I'm seeing deer. I'm not sitting here. So I don't know if that played into the reason why the deer weren't moving, because we did find that spot on like a Monday, and they don't fly on the weekends. So I think that they might have been in that area Saturday and Sunday when the helicopters weren't flying. And then Monday they started flying and they're like, fuck this shit, we're out of here. I don't know how it worked, but long story short there, I got out of there and I had 2 full days of hunting left. So I was like, I'm moving. I said tomorrow, because we had already seen a couple deer, like bucks cross the road. We just haven't pursued them. So I said, tomorrow morning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride around until I see a deer, and then I'm just going to go hunt that deer. So that day that I'm talking about, we had at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we had seen a big buck cross from the impact area over into we let's just say area 2. I don't know what area it was, but they crossed the hard top, and we were like, okay, that's the second time this week we had seen a deer cross right there. So tomorrow morning I'm going to scout that area. So Blake goes and hunts the horseshoe that I was talking about, and me, Carl, and Maurice were like, let's go down here and scout. So we did. We dove off in there. It's an area that Maurice and I had that big, huge, wide 7-point we called Mr. Krabs. We had 4 or 5 good bucks in there on camera in 2021, daylighting. So, but we never hunted. I don't understand why we never hunted it in like
You're
where's that
silly.
area down.
Just you're a silly
But
guy. That's probably why.
we did it. We went in there and we did like a 1.5 mile circle, and we got in there to where I had bow hunted a couple years ago, and me and Maurice in 2021 found all kinds of scrapes in there. And we get on top of this hill, and I'm like, and it's kind of where we sat. Maurice and I sat a couple years ago, and there was just like 5 or 6 fresh scrapes. You could see one from the other one. I was like, Maurice, I'm just gonna say this: you should probably sit here. It's up to you, but you should probably sit here because these aren't the. I'm starting to notice a pattern at this point, right? So the pattern that I'm noticing is okay. So we've sat beautiful looking spots. We've sat spots that you're just sitting here and you're like, damn, this is pretty as hell. I can picture deer walk through here, but they didn't. Then I moved to hunting transition scrapes. So I'm hunting spots that it's thick on one side, hardwoods on one side. You get a fire lane, and then it's like a travel corridor. The deer are funneling through there, and then there's like transitional scrapes. So obviously they're scraping as they're walking from point A to point B.
Mm.
But these scrapes are like open timber scrapes. There's no rhyme or reason for them being there. There's not a fire lane. There's not a trail. There's not a hardwood edge. It's just random scrapes and open hardwoods. So I was, if this is the only thing that we haven't hunted yet, and there's obviously fresh sign being laid down. So I told Maurice, I said, you need to hunt. You need to hunt within this area. I said, I still got the pin from the same tree we hunted a couple years ago. You should probably hunt there. I said, what do you think? He's like, yeah. Well, he actually had a good buck on camera in a different area, so he was torn in between two places. So we walk back out to the road. We get back to the truck, and we're literally parked on the hard top, and we're just sitting there. And Blake wanted to sit till 10:30, and it's like 9:50. So I'm about to go pick Blake up here in a minute. And we're sitting there, and they're sitting in the back of Maurice's truck, and I got my window down, my feet propped up on the window, and we're all just bullshitting on the road. And we heard a deer blow. And Maurice looks, and 30 yards from the truck was about to cross the same spot we had seen that big buck cross the day before. And another deer crossed there the day before that. Mm. Same exact spot. Maurice looks down and said, deer, deer, deer. So I stand up on my door jamb and I pick up the binoculars, and I could see the deer running through the woods up the hill on the other side, and it stopped, and it's behind a bunch of brush, and I'm trying to find it with my
Binoculars.
binos.
There it is.
But I was trying to say binos and binoculars, binoculars.
But that's the thing, dude, is for the longest time, I would bring both my binos and my binoculars, but and it would just be a clusterfuck to try to use both of them, man. I get what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's a binoculars and a binoculars. It doesn't work.
It doesn't ever.
No, it doesn't. Sorry.
Especially when there's a deer running away. So I finally see the ass of this deer, and I'm like, I see it. They're like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know yet. And it took a step, and I seen the left side, and I seen his G2 was probably 7 or 8 inches long. I said, oh my God, it's a good buck. Like white, bright, just some of the whitest horns I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all scrambling now to get our guns. You can't have your guns loaded on the road. You have to be 100 yards off the road. So we're all trying to run 100 yards in the woods, and the deer's running off. So it was just a shit show. So I told the guys right there, I was like, if that right there isn't enough for us to come hunt this area, I don't know what is. I said, obviously, they're following this edge right here, crossing this road off this point. I said, I'm going to get about 200 yards over here. Someone needs to hunt 200 yards on this side. And Maurice, you need to hunt over there where I told you to hunt. And I went and picked Blake up, and I told Blake, I said, he got in the truck. We had a goober sandwich, and I was like, all right, bud, just go drop me off. I'm hunting over here.
Come on.
I was trying to get in the stand right then.
Yeah.
Because we had seen that buck cross the day before at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock or some shit. And then that one tried crossing right at 10 o'clock. So I'm trying, I ended up, he dropped me off right there where the buck crossed or was going to cross. And I walked in about 180 yards and kind of to the east a little bit and sat up. I could see the road. It wasn't no big deal because they couldn't see anything in there. I could see coming off the road, there was like a 20-yard strip of woods that kind of did a big horseshoe back there. So I was sitting in like the center of this horseshoe where I could see both wood lines. If any deer in that or any deer in that block wanted to cross the road where they've been crossing, they were either going to hit one side of these woods or the other and walk to the road. So that was my mindset. So I sat there from 11:30 that day till dark, and I didn't see nothing. Well, on the other side of the strip of woods I'm talking about to my left, Carl was sitting there about 260 yards from me. And then about 250 yards from him is where Maurice was. And Maurice was supposed to sit in a pen that I sent him. And he's like, "Yeah, bro, I'm like," he said, "I went to that tree, kind of climbed up it. I didn't like it, so I moved about 50 yards, and I'm sitting here." So it was about 30 minutes before dark, and we heard boom. Oh shit. And then Maurice said, "He's down, boys." And he sent us a picture, and it was a good buck. Like, significantly bigger than any deer
I
he's
saw
ever
that
killed.
picture. Yeah, right there on the right below the stand, it laid dead.
Yeah. This is after, so I on Saturday, like no, Sunday, our second full day of hunting, Carl actually had shot a buck in his spot, and he had been the only one seeing deer. There was yeah, we're like 2 days from leaving, and I still haven't seen a deer. Blake still hasn't seen a deer. Maurice has only seen a spike out of the stand. Carl has seen a deer pretty much every sit almost, whether it was a small buck or a doe or something. But he had previous knowledge of deer being or daylight in there leading up to the whole trip. So at this point, he was in a really the only good spot, and he had a buck come in trailing a doe right at dark the second evening we were there, and he shot it. It was a 6 point. Um, yeah, it was Sunday night because I didn't hunt Sunday evening. I went and cooked, was trying to cook dinner. I was peeling potatoes and watching the Bucks game when he called and said he shot one, and I had to go. I had to run back out in the woods with the game cart. Thank God, because them deer up there, they're a little bit like the younger deer are the size of our full size deer here, and it was all uphill. So we had to go out there and help him get his deer. So Carl had one down, he was seeing deer. At this point, Maurice just shot one, and he was seeing deer. Carl moved over there with us, and he was seeing deer that night, and I still hadn't seen shit.
Mm-hmm.
Blake hadn't seen shit. Blake's still hunting the horseshoe. I haven't convinced him to leave yet because that's how much good sign there was over there. He was just moving 50 to 100 yards every sit, trying to figure out where the hell these deer are because clearly there's deer there. So Maurice shoots this deer. We all gather up that night and we go over there. And Blake pulls his stand after that, and he's like, "Well, they're seeing deer over here. I want to come over here." I was like, "Come on! I told you to come over here today, but you didn't listen." So we all, we take care of the deer, whatever.
What was Maurice's deer?
I believe it was a scoreable 8. Mainframe, like typical 8 point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was. It was either 7 or 8. I can't exactly remember exactly what it was, but he scored out at 93 and a quarter
It's a
and
big
weighed
deer.
150 pounds.
Good. It's a good sized deer for vacation buck.
Yeah, for the southeast, it's a real it was a damn good deer. And
Yeah.
he said it was in like a thick patch of like brush, and then he was like raking trees, just like tearing the trees apart. And
Mm-hmm.
he said he watched it for 10 minutes and it finally come out and he shot it, and he said it kind of bounded twice towards him and like stood underneath him. He was about to shoot it again, it fell, and then he took a picture. It was literally 5 yards from the stand when it fell. And where he had, so from the funny part about this is we always give Maurice hell. We always mess with him some, and we're always like, "Dude, we can't do everything for you, right? Like, we've put you on deer. We've done this, done this, done this. The next step in your hunting needs to be you do your own thing, make your own move, and then kill a deer. Then you know you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like killing deer is not easy no matter who's helping you to start with, but when you do it on your own, it's just a better feeling for you personally. You'll be able to go home that night and say I did it, rather than
Yeah.
so and so helped me. So and so helped me.
Well, I mean, we had this conversation when you were down, when I was asking you about my
Right.
6-point I had mounted on the wall.
Right.
I said, I mean, he scored I think 88 inches. He's not a monster. I mean, 88 is a pretty good size for a 6-point. But I told you why I had him mounted. That's the
Yeah.
first buck in my life that, with zero help from anyone else, I did that. That's
Yep.
on my own. That was me.
Right.
You
It's a
know,
pretty
so
deer. I
there's
mean, he's
oh
racked
yeah,
out.
he's a great looking deer. It's just one of those things where, like, I look at him and I've got another deer mounted from Georgia that, if it wasn't for my cousin putting me in a shoot house, I don't shoot that deer.
Right.
This deer is get permission, scout the land, put in the hours, shoot the buck, drag it out, clean it, quarter it, have it processed. All that stuff was on my own.
Yeah.
You know, and that there is a pride aspect to it. And then once you do that on your own, you almost feel like, shit, I'd come out here in May and shoot one. Like your
Yeah.
mindset is like, it doesn't matter what time of the year. I know exactly what these bucks are going to do. Like, you can't, like, in your mind, you think you cannot be outsmarted by these deer no more, which is completely false. It's just, but they'll outsmart you. But you get that sense of like, confidence that no matter what, from here on out, whatever hunt I go on, the odds of me shooting a deer are through the roof compared to the day before. That's
Oh
where your
yeah.
mind goes. 100%.
Oh, mine does it every time. If I go through like a good stretch like this bow season, when I killed 4 deer in 3 weeks, I was like, oh dude, I gotta stop hunting because I gotta save a tag, and now I'm eating tag soup. You know, it's
Yeah.
you get humbled real quick. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, anyways, so we're at the house that evening talking, and we're all sitting at the table, and everybody's excited about this new area we found because we just shot a buck there. They're seeing deer there. And Blake's like, well, is there room over there for me? I'm like, yes. I said, I bow hunted this spot a couple years ago. I sent him the pin and I said, you need to go here tomorrow morning. I said, you're going to go in the dark, but you need to go to this tree, find a tree, and just sit up, and then you can adjust after that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's plenty of buck sign in there, dude. Plenty of buck sign. So he does that, right? And but what? Hang on, let me think here. There was a reason I was talking about Maurice and the whole independent thing. Yes, because I had sent him a point, and he said he went to that point, and he moved 50 yards and sat in his own tree and killed that deer.
Mm-hmm.
That he wouldn't have killed if he was in this tree. And I was like, I don't know, man, you probably still would have. But when we went out to get the deer, he's walking in a direction nowhere near the pin I sent him. So we get to the deer, and I'm standing next to his stand, and I mark, and I do, like, on Onyx, you can see the distance between point A and point B. We were 290 yards from the pin I sent him. And I was like, Maurice, bro, you're nowhere fucking near where I told you to go. And he's like, oh man, I'm my bad. I was like, nah, dude, I'm saying you did good. Like, this was you, bro. This was totally all you. You know what
Not
I mean?
even
Like,
close to me at this
not
point.
even,
It's about 290 yards away from me.
Yeah, he said he went to the pin and moved 50 yards. I was like, no, you did not. You didn't make it nowhere near the pin. Like, whatever. Because I was telling him, Maurice gets so agitated, not agitated, but gets so down on hunts. Like, two sits into a hunt, he don't see a deer. He's like, oh, you know what I mean? He's like, he's ready to slit his wrist, and we're like, but we got to talk him off the fucking edge, bro. And we're like, and he's like, dude, I don't know if I should go here, should go here, should go here, do this, do that. And I'm just like, bro, listen, go with your fucking gut. I said, I'm gonna tell you what I would do is I would do this, and I'd sent him that pin. I said I would sit right here if I was you. Like if you weren't here,
Is
I'd be
this
sitting
pin a
there.
place you had scouted before, or just something you randomly fucking found on? Like you were like, this is an area. Here's a pin.
No, we scouted it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. We had hunted there. So that pin is actually where in 2021 when the day I met Maurice, we were eating lunch and there was a buck at a scrape right there, and it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We were eating lunch at the truck, probably 200 yards from this pin, and we got walked in there, set our stands up, and I checked the camera, and the deer was literally making a scrape at that pin. Why at the same exact time we are 200 yards away in my truck eating a
Burger
chicken
King.
sandwich from Burger King.
How about it?
So that's this spot, and anyways, he found his own tree, killed this buck, so he's ecstatic. He's mounting the deer, like, uh. So now let's fast forward. I sent Blake this pin, told him where to sit.
Well,
So
before we fast forward, we might have to break this into a two-parter.
oh yeah.
We might have to break this into a two-parter.
All right. Well, let's end it with let's end it with this morning hunt then.
All right.
So yeah, because that evening hunt gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit at dinner. Blake's got an idea of where to go now. He's going to be about 250. Pretty much everybody's 250 yards apart. We're just creating a big horseshoe around this road, and so I get up in the stand. It's 20 minutes before daylight. Like everybody's set up perfect except Blake because he's still got to go in and set his stand up and shit. So he goes in. He walks down this road basically and cuts into the woods, crosses a creek, and it's about 180 yards in off the road to the spot I told him to go. So he goes in there and he's trying to find like a perfect spot in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't tell him to do that. I just said go to this pin because you know how woods all look kind of different at night. Well, he's trying to find a perfect spot in the dark, and you just can't do it in hardwoods because you're like, oh, it's too thick or whatever. But ultimately, when the sun's up, you can see pretty good through these woods. He's trying to. I don't know what he's doing. He's trying to do his scouting at night. It just doesn't
He's
work. Instead of just
overthinking.
listening.
He's overthinking.
Right. Instead of just listening to me. So he's scouting around and doing this and that, and then we get a text from Maurice. He's like, "Dude, Blake's 10 yards from me, putting a stand on a tree." So he had worked his way almost 250 yards to the north.
Oh,
And Maurice is like, hey, Blake, what are you doing? Blake literally told me that morning. He said, I literally just found the spot where I wanted to be, and I heard Maurice. So we get a text from Blake. He's like, hey, I'm just going to go get all the cameras because this was our last day. We were leaving the next morning. He's like, hey, I'm just going to go gather all our cameras up and ride around and maybe see a deer. We're like, okay.
Mm.
So Maurice had seen a spike horn and a doe. Carl had seen a doe and a spike, and at like 9 o'clock, I had seen a spike hauling ass down that wood line, kind of like what I had pictured the deer would do if they went across that road. They kind of just funnel into these two heads of woods, and they would follow the woods up to the road and cross it, and that's what this spike did. Something spooked him or whatever because he was getting there. I watched him run up the hill and cross the road, and once we all got down, kind of gathered our wits, I told Blake that there was a spot to kind of, I guess it would be northwest of where I was at, that there's a creek. He needs to go hunt that creek crossing that evening. Carl was going to hunt where he was. Maurice is going to hunt where he was. And I had already made up the decision. I said, Blake, I told you to hunt there this morning. I'm hunting there this evening. So I was going to go hunt where I told Blake to hunt.
Yeah.
And that's what I did that evening. But we can dive into that on another episode later this week or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's more to this story, more to this trip that needs to be said. So that's why I don't want to, I don't want to hammer out 2.5 hours. but I think breaking it into two-part makes it real nice and easy on everybody.
Well,
Everybody's gonna want to hear it.
yeah, you froze there for a second, but yeah. So up to this point, we're on our fifth day of the trip, fifth or sixth day of the trip, and I'd only seen one spike, and if it wasn't for something spooking it, I wouldn't have seen it. And Blake still hasn't seen a deer from the tree stand. I'm ready to go at this point. It is what it is. I'm just kind of swinging or shooting from the hip at this point, and yeah, I can't wait to tell the rest of the story because it gets really good, really good. So there's four people, two of us have shot, and two of us haven't really seen anything from the stand. So
Let it intensify, baby. It's getting wild. Look, this is what we'll do. We'll break out of here, and then we'll reconvene. All right. Hey,
yeah,
if you guys like what you're hearing from Nate right now, stay tuned for part 2, because you're about to get the nitty-gritty of the real shit.
yeah, you're not gonna want to miss this because I'm gonna get really into detail here, and it happens fast, but there's a lot of details,
Happens
and
fast.
there's a good learning curve here too that I think that's really gonna help people. That's really gonna help people's tactics next hunting season. I truly think that because we all four sat down and this is the common denominator on why we all killed so well. Did we kill? But
Did they? Did they?
but we definitely learned something, and I can't wait to share it with y'all.
Perfect. Well, all right. Listen, you like what you're hearing, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that people do for podcasts, do it. Follow Blue Cord on all social medias. Follow Outside Stuff on all social medias and YouTubes and Carbon TVs. Do it. Nate, we're about to reconvene and hit up a part 2 here. Peace out, Girl Scouts, and we'll see y'all on the next one.